with a whopping 30 luck.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show, he's back. He's a menace. It's Matthew Stadlen. He's going to go head-to-head with Lizzie Cundy and Dame Andrea Jenkyns. We've also got the godfather of hospitality, and that's Mr. Robert Walton. But coming up now, we've got the news.
Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is due to meet the US President Joe Biden at the White House this evening to discuss Ukraine's request to use Western weapons on Russian soil. And for more on this, we can bring in our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, good to have you with us. What more can you tell us?
Yes, the pair are meeting along with the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, our National Security Advisor Tim Barrow, and many more. An hour and a half meeting we're expecting. We'll then have some words from the Prime Minister following that. We're not told that there'll be any announcement, but clearly this thorny issue of the Storm Shadow missiles very much at the forefront now. Number 10 want to play that down, but Volodymyr Zelensky has made it very clear that Ukraine wants and says it desperately needs permission to send these long-range cruise missiles into Russian territory, something that the Russian President Vladimir Putin has said if the West does, if the US gives permission, Britain already has done, it would mean that NATO countries are at war with Russia. So they will be discussing other issues as well, the Middle East being one of them. They want to play this down, but I suspect that it may be that the first we know that the decision has been taken to grant permission may be when the weapons are actually used.
Catherine Forster, thank you very much. That's GB News' political correspondent there, speaking on the Prime Minister's meeting with the US President this evening. We will, of course, bring you all of that as we get it. Now, former US President Donald Trump has repeated claims that Kamala Harris is part of a group of radical left lunatics who are desperate to bring the country towards communism. Trump made those comments as he makes an appearance in Kamala Harris's home state of California for a private fundraiser and a news conference. He'd earlier said he's done debating and won't participate in another head-to-head before the November election, despite polls showing Ms. Harris won their first face-off overnight. Several top Republicans said Harris came out on top, with one poll showing 53% of voters agree. 7 men who committed a string of child sex abuse offences against 2 girls in Rotherham have been jailed for a total of 106 years. The men were all convicted after a 9-week trial, which was the result of an investigation by the National Crime Agency called Operation Stovewood. The victims, aged between 11 and 16 at the time of the offences and were both in care, were groomed and often plied with alcohol or cannabis before being raped or assaulted. Now, what would have been the UK's first coal mine in 30 years is now in legal limbo, as planning permission's been quashed by the High Court. Climate campaigners argued the decision to grant planning permission for the Whitehaven coal mine in Cumbria contradicted the UK's climate commitments. The government had withdrawn its defence, but developer West Cumbria Mining still contested the claim. However, in today's ruling, the judge said giving the go-ahead for the development was legally flawed. And the prison population in England and Wales has dropped by over 2,000 in just 1 week following the start of the government's early release scheme. Today's figures are the first to be published since Labour's plan took effect, reducing the number of prisoners to just over 86,000, down from a record 88,500. Under the scheme implemented this week, about 1,700 inmates were freed who'd served 40% of their sentences. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield, and joining me tonight, she's back, Lizzie Cundy. Lovely to see you, Lizzie.
Lovely to see you, Lee.
And the firm favourite of the show, the bad boy of political commentary, Matthew Stadlen. Thanks for coming again, Matthew.
It must be good for ratings, Lee.
Well, actually, there should be a warning, on this show, because I've actually had a few people complain that they switch off when you're on. But you know what? I like to have you on, Matthew, because it reminds people of which way they should actually vote. So, Lizzie, look, we've seen this new Labour government come in. They've been in, 8, 9, 10 weeks, I think it is so far. Obviously, we've had 4 or 5 weeks after the summer. We're back on recess again. Some people may say they're making a bit of a hash of things in the first few weeks. But what's it going to look like? What's the political landscape going to look like in 4 or 5 years' time?
I am really worried because, for me, before the election, he just didn't give any policy. So now I understand why, because none of anyone would have voted for him. I think it's absolutely cruel and disgusting what he's doing to the pensioners. He keeps saying, I've got to do tough decisions, but this is only tough for the people of this country, for the pensioners. It's not tough for the government. And I think people have lost face. He's minus 16 in popularity. It's gone down so quickly. And I think he's possibly going to be one of our worst Prime Ministers we've ever had.
Yeah, Matthew, we keep hearing the Labour Party bleating on about making difficult decisions. Now, in politics, I don't think there are any difficult decisions. There's the right decisions and the wrong decisions. If you make the right decision, it shouldn't be that difficult. The people that are going to have to make difficult decisions are the pensioners this winter, I believe, who's going to have to choose. You know, the Labour was pretty quick to keep saying people are choosing between heating and eating, and they've actually done something which is going to make pensioners do exactly that.
So, Lee, I think the reason that you think there are only right and wrong decisions and there aren't any difficult decisions in politics is because you're not in government. And you're not going to be in government because Reform only got 5 MPs at the last election. But let's deal with this government because it's right that they should be scrutinised and it's right that they should be held to account. I think that they've made a mistake on the winter fuel allowance policy. I think it was a political mistake because it's allowed people from all sides of the political spectrum to give them a good kicking. But I also think it's a mistake because I really do think some vulnerable pensioners will struggle this winter. That said, of course, as you know, the pensions are going up with the triple lock. But yes, I've personally encouraged the government to backtrack on that. And when we learned that energy prices are going up this autumn, that surely was the perfect opportunity for them to do just that. But I do nonetheless think that Starmer and Reeves have a strategy. The facts are...
they've got a strategy, all right, and that's to steal off pensioners.
I think it is right that they level with us. The state of our public finances are pretty dire. Yeah. And the undeniable truth is that after 14 years of Conservatives in power, and I'm sure you'd agree with me on this, the state of our country is in a mess. I'm very proud to be British, but if you look at our NHS, you look at the report that's come out today, you look at social care, you look at this appalling state of our prisons, the fact that the government seemed to be left with no alternative but to let out prisoners early this week in significant numbers. I mean, that's a terrible legacy.
You can raise your voice all you like. We're not have that sort of behaviour on this show.
Yeah,
over to you, Lizzie.
I'd like to say something to Matthew. They keep going on about this so-called 22 billion black hole.
It's nonsense, isn't it?
Well, Reeves, today, the Financial Times has said, please explain this 22 black hole. We all want to know. She said she can't.
She can't.
I'll tell you why she can't, because it's not true.
It's made up.
It is another Labour lie, Matthew, and this is the thing. And why are they favouring the unions and not our own pensioners? Isn't the first order of any government to look after its own people? Yet we give $9 billion to foreign aid. Matthew, try and explain that. Try and explain that.
The unions, Lizzie.
But they are, Matthew. Listen, I like to be impartial on this show, as you know. But when you're giving train drivers on 60, 70 grand a year a £10,000 a year pay rise, and then you're taking £300 off a pensioner who's getting 13 grand a year. That is favouring the unions.
They get 300 a day, train drivers. I mean, look what they're doing to the pensioners.
Hang on, listen. This is an easy way of attacking the government. The reality is that the Conservatives allowed these strikes to drag on and drag on and drag on. If we have a booming economy,
but you could say,
if we have a, let me answer the question, because you've suggested
I'm going to butt in. You could say the unions let these disputes go on and on and on.
You can make that argument. Whatever happens, who loses if the strikes continue? We do.
So just give in.
We do. No, not just give in. Resolve the dispute so that we have a functioning economy. Because if you haven't got a railway system that works, not only are people unable to get to funerals and to all sorts of things,
Lizzie, come back.
But they can't work.
Go back at him, Lizzie.
They have bowed their heads to the paymasters here. Now, everyone is going to come out of the woodwork, and yet they say, oh, no, this is tough decisions. No, this is their choice to do this. This was a political decision. And, Matthew, you are heartless. Heartless to do this to the pensioners.
Hang on. You're heartless, Matthew.
Yes, you are. You're happy that a train driver's getting
He's smiling.
70,000.
Sorry, let's have some order here. Is Lizzie allowed to shout?
Yes.
And then when you accuse me of raising my voice, let me respond to that. I have criticised, Lizzie, if you were listening to what I've said.
Oh, it's patronising now.
No.
That's quite patronising.
It's not patronising because she's just accused me of something I haven't done. I have not supported what the government has done on the winter fuel allowance. But what I have said is what you're supporting is a train system, a railway system that doesn't function. And if you don't have a functioning railway system, your economy struggles. And if the economy struggles, the pot shrinks and we have less money for pensioners and less money for people on waiting lists, on NHS waiting lists.
Matthew, say that to the Mayor of London. I was trying to get here today. You can't go over 20 miles an hour, ULEZ everywhere, taxing us everywhere we go. If the city is slow, it doesn't work. If the city doesn't move, it doesn't work.
Why didn't you take the tube like I did? Take public transport instead of making all of us late.
Because I had about 5 other jobs I've got today, and I've got a whole load of stuff, and I can't carry it.
Because I've got an appointment to go to. So don't blame Mayor Khan.
Hey, just take it down, guys.
I'm sorry, but you're happy with them paying this huge amounts of money to the train drivers and the unions. This is disgraceful, Matthew.
You drove here today or were driven here.
Your party is supposed to be holier than thou, looking after everyone, but they're hurting the most vulnerable with this.
Well, listen, they say, Matthew, that every pub is a parliament, and we've got a little mini parliament in here today. It's a really good debate. Now, Lizzie actually mentioned something I think that's pertinent at the moment about the ULEZ charge and stuff like that in London. Labour's London, by the way. I think there's a report out this week which said that the expansion of the ULEZ scheme hasn't actually reduced the pollution in London. So is that just another cash grab from Mayor Khan?
You'd have to ask Mayor Khan. I can't defend every policy that Mayor Khan comes out with. What I do know is that an attempt to reduce pollution is not just important for the environment, but it is also important for the little lungs of our children, such as my young son, who's not even 2, who grows up in the capital. So if we are genuine about cleaning up our air, we have to make efforts in those directions.
You should clean up the air in the underground, because it's an absolute disgrace.
But let's get back, Lizzie, to the question, the topic, which was, what will British politics look like in 5 years' time?
Well, I think Nigel Farage is going to be in power. I think people will be so disillusioned with this Labour government that, like we've seen in Europe, they're going to be thinking far more right and thinking, you know, we want to think to ourselves, we're sick of this, nanny state. He's telling us not to even have a cigarette in the
Matthew had a little
garden.
snigger there, so I want to come back to Matthew now.
I heard him snigger.
He was sniggering. Matthew, I think you need to get out in the real world and go out into
Lizzie, unlike Lizzie, I am in the real world. I just got here by the tube. It wasn't me who got us late.
Listen,
Lizzie is complaining about the nanny state at the same time as saying the state should be giving pensioners winter fuel allowance. It simply does not add up. The reality doesn't match your ideology. Let me answer Lee's question about what's going to happen in 5 years' time. With any luck, we will have a functioning railway system. With any luck, we will have an economy that works if Starmer and Reeves are right in the tough decisions that they say they're going to make. With any luck, Wes Streeting reforms the NHS.
It's all about luck, is it? It's all about luck, by the sounds of it.
If they are successful, is a manner of speaking. If they are successful on all those things, we should all be happy because we are all in it together.
I'll tell you what, Lizzie, But
I tell you one thing, Nigel Farage will never be Prime Minister. Kemi Badenoch will never be Prime Minister. There is no appetite, no widespread appetite for a reform government.
We had
14 years of failure. failure, and Reform got 5 MPs.
Matthew, you should get out more and talk to real people, because everyone I talk to...
And that's not patronising. I spend my life talking to real people.
Because I drive a car. I literally... everyone I speak to is so disillusioned already by this Labour government, and they are so worried that we've got him for the next 4 or so years. That's the biggest worry, because, you know, he's lied and lied. He didn't tell us. He said he would, you know, change for the worse. No one would have voted.
He was at the dispatch box yesterday, Lizzie, Sir Keir Starmer. He didn't answer one single question, only to his own backbenchers. He just battered them off. I think he's not the, you know, he likes to come across as this cuddly type of uncle. He's not. I think there's something quite sinister about him.
And sadly, everything's being written by Tony Blair and Peter Mandelson. And he, you know, you see him, he looks to the script, he looks down all the time. As for Nigel Farage and yourself, you do it fluently. You're amazing communicators. He is a gloom and doom after his speech. You just feel so like there's no hope. He just has the black cloud over you.
30 seconds for Matthew. Matthew, I'm going to ask you for a 30-second contribution.
You're claiming to be impartial, and one of your guests is flattering you guys to your face, Lee. The point about Starmer is he realises that this country is in a mess. You think it's in a mess. We all have to hope that he and his team get a grip on it, because, as I said, we're all in it together. You guys can shout from the sidelines all you like, but we have to hope it works.
Well, Matthew, I'd like just my last thing to ask you, who does Labour appeal to? Probably the 1,700 criminals they've released early.
This has won the biggest majority since Tony Blair in 1997. That's how democracy works.
As you well know, Matthew, his majority is built on sand. You have to be honest about that one. Look, the winter fuel payment cut affected 17,000 pensioners in my constituency out of 19,000. That's 88%. All the neighbouring constituencies that were, you know, retook, if you like, by Labour at the last election, every single Labour MP voted to cut that benefit, and they will lose their seats at the next election. Look, we've got to go now. Another fruity battle with Matthew and Lizzie. Well done, you held your own there.
Thank you.
Look, coming up next, we've got an old colleague of mine, that's Dame Andrea Jenkyns for Back in the Day.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And feelings of stress and anxiety tend to be quite normal for a lot of kids. And if it's normal for the kids, then it affects the parents as well.
Well, it seems that our canine friends could be the cure after new research by the University of Bristol found that dogs are incredibly sensitive to their owners' emotions. OK,
how do we cheat into this? How can your doggy help your family handle stress during this time of the year? Let's go to the Director of Canine Affairs at Guide Dogs UK, Tim Stafford. Tim, we're talking about this as if it's a big revelation, but obviously, you know, a man like yourself, you're well used to this, and you can see when a dog is reacting. What form would that reaction take, do you think?
Yeah, you know what? It's nice when the science kind of confirms what most of us have known for a very long time. Our dogs become members of our family, and they come very, very close to us. So it's no surprise that anything that goes on in the family is going to be detected and picked up by the dog. That can be changes in behaviours. It can certainly be the dogs watching our behaviours and starting to mirror those behaviours. But what this research says is that the dogs can actually smell our emotions. It's not just that they're responding to our behaviour changes, they're responding to our physiological changes as well, because we smell differently when we start to get anxious. So at this time, there's lots of changes in a lot of families' lives. Kids are going back to school, young people are going to university, parents are having to deal with all of the emotions attached to that. So it's no surprise that our dogs start to detect that too.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Weekday weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m, followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain, followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Right, we're going back in the day now with a good friend of mine, Dame Andrea Jenkyns. Thank you for coming on this show. Lovely to see you. And we share a little bit of history, Andrea. Something
we do.
I found out when we was having a drink one night at work, and you told me something that I didn't know.
Yes, we lived in the same village, and I lived next door to your auntie and cousin.
That's right.
Many years ago,
There's a snippet of information there that you didn't know. But Andrea,
I know whole historic secrets, by the way.
There's none there. Obviously, you've been on a similar sort of journey to me, becoming a councillor, then a member of Parliament. What first drove you to becoming a councillor?
Oh, I mean, being a councillor, I sort of fell into it. I moved to Lincolnshire and I was renting a dingy flat at the time when I found somewhere to buy, and my landlord was a local councillor, Conservative councillor. He invited me to sing at one of his fundraisers, and it went from there.
I didn't know you saw.
Oh, I'm a soprano, yeah. I used to have my own record label. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So you was renting a dingy flat?
I was, yeah.
From a Conservative councillor?
Yeah.
Did he not do it up properly for you?
It was only a short-term one while I found somewhere else to live. So.
OK. So I've always say, Andrea, that the hardest part of being a politician is getting elected.
Yes.
That's the main thing. We have to knock on doors, you have to design your own leaflets, raise your own money.
Well, it was actually quite an interesting election because I was only a paper candidate.
OK.
And it was in an area that had always been Labour and for the county council. Now, the main district council, they had a BNP councillor. And do you remember when Nick Griffin was on the question time?
Yeah, I do.
And there's all the hoo-ha about it. So Nick Griffin came to the election to try and get BNP in. So that's my sort of first taste of doing some national media.
Yeah, so he was BNP, and that sort of, you think that sort of, I mean, people like me get labelled as far right all the time.
So do I.
I'm sure you do. I mean, that's a lot of nonsense, surely.
Well, you and I, yeah, of course it is, yes. But I mean, why I decided to stand though, Lee, back to your original question, as an MP, it was actually the awful care in the NHS in which my dad died. Literally should have had a 10-minute operation to drain fluid off his lungs, and trainee doctors practiced on him for 2.5 hours, and he died of MRSA. So that's what made me decide to sell my house, move in with my mum to then try and get the seat off Ed Balls, which I did at the time.
Excellent. Well done for that. How long from becoming a councillor to becoming an MP did it take?
So I was a councillor 2009 and I got selected 2013, elected 2015.
Yeah. Wow, that's an incredible journey, isn't it?
Yeah, very unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was very fortunate because I got... I joined the Conservative Party in 2018.
No, you did, I know.
I know. And in 2019, I was a member of Parliament for where we live. So it was an incredible journey. And but the Conservative Party's been on a bit of a journey as well.
Yes.
And I'm not sure. You know, when I was in the party, I quite liked which way it was going. And obviously, they were restructuring earlier this year, got rid of me.
I know.
And I was told by a colleague.
Well,
yesterday.
I defended you, didn't I?
did.
Remember, we were sat in the chamber together when you first came back in the chamber.
And I was told by a colleague a while ago that he said in a meeting that the worst thing that happened was that they got rid of Lee Anderson and brought David Cameron back. And that totally switched our voters off in the Red Wall. Have you got any... I mean,
I think you going was a pivotal moment, but I think it was going in the wrong direction for a long time, to be honest, Lee.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the Thatcherite roots, centre-right Conservatives, common sense Conservatives be reignited, and I hope whoever's chosen as leader reignites that.
Yeah.
Whether that'll happen, well,
I mean, let's fast forward a few years. Obviously, we're going to have a general election within the next 4.5 years. We know that, Andrea. Are you going to be standing again? And if so, who for?
I'm not sure if I'm going to stand yet, Lee. I mean, my constituents ex-constituents keep pulling me in to do stuff. You can't help yourself,
it's hard
can
to
you?
let go, isn't it?
It is hard to let go, but I think let's see where I am in 3 or 4 years' time. I don't know. I mean, what I've said is if Kemi Badenoch gets leadership, I don't think I'll be staying as leader, or if one of the other West gets leader. I won't be sorry staying as a party member.
Yeah.
And I've had a few people say that to me.
The thing is, with the Conservative Party, and I don't like to diss them because it was very good to me at the beginning, throughout most of my parliamentary career.
Yes.
But I look in the leadership election at the moment, and all the candidates, and I am friends with some of them still,
yes,
they're part of the problem for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think we need a clean out and get some off the backbenchers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is looking at the makeup of the backbenchers of the Conservative Party. They are the one nation centrist, and I don't think we're going to learn our lessons like that. I think they need a wake-up call, which they've had, and I hope whoever gets elected as a new leader really saw what's happened, learns from it, and be more conservative.
But I think that's more to do, Andrea, with once they do elect a new leader, it's about the selection process of new candidates. You know,
CCHQ needs reforming.
It needs bulldozing. You know, we're getting candidates that's got no experience, got no life skills, that just know people.
So many career politicians.
We're the same with all parties, isn't it?
Oh, completely.
So,
and some people who belong in the Lib Dems, let's face it.
Well, I can name a few of those, especially, But funnily enough, quite a few of those actually lost the seats to the Lib Dems and Labour in the South West.
Which is ironic, absolutely.
Which is
but I mean, look, the oldest party, I'd love to see them fighting back, but as you know, before the election, Lee, I'd like to see a realignment of the centre-right.
Yeah, and in a Conservative Party where you was an MP again, would you be welcoming people like Nigel Farage into the fold? Because I've asked this question.
Oh, come on,
I know there's no interest in the
Conservative
Party.
I know Nigel. I've always said yes, haven't I?
Yeah,
so
I think he's been...
I'd welcome you back, Lee. You know, if we got our act together, and we could be brought together.
You know what, Andrea? I look at the leadership contenders now for your party, and funnily enough, it's amazing. My majority is bigger than all of them, and these were people that had 25,000 majorities. So
I mean,
and they still don't learn the lessons.
I mean, I don't regret not coming over, Lee, because I do believed in going down with the ship. You know, I did get elected on that, and I genuinely don't miss that. And do I really want to be in the chamber at the moment, seeing Angela Rayner grandstanding as our Deputy Prime Minister of our great country? No, I don't, actually. So I don't mind this time out at the moment. And
OK, life away from politics. We've got about a minute left, Andrew.
Yes.
What do you want to be doing over the next 3 or 4 years, apart from answering constituents' inquiries?
Something in business, go back to my business roots. I'm living doing the media. But also, I've got this thing planned, watch this space, to really start holding institutions to account. So watch your space. Happily come on, Lee, and speak another time about this.
What sort of institutions? What's the one at the
Every
moment?
institution on the UK, trying to realign the right as well. So watch your space.
OK. We've got US elections coming up. Have you shown any interest in that at all?
Yes, I mean, I want Trump to win, completely.
Yeah, I think I want Trump to win. Not because I think he's great.
Can you imagine him and Starmer meeting Starmer? I mean, that would be so interesting to see.
Yeah, he cuts through the nonsense a lot of the time, don't he? You know, I always say, Andrea, that politics is not that difficult. You just listen to what people want and just deliver it if you can. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure to see you. You're looking very lovely. Love the short hair.
Thank you.
That's Andrea Jenkyns. Thank you.
See you.
Coming up next, Andrea's coming back, actually. We've got right versus left. We have Andrea Jenkyns, we've got Matthew Stadlen and Lizzie Cundy.
Hi there and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Following a topsy-turvy week of weather, it's been a reasonable end to the working week for many of us, and it stays clear over the next 24 hours in the south. A chilly start to the weekend there, but further north there will be an increase in the cloud overnight as this weather system moves in. That's going to bring the thickest cloud and the more persistent and at times heavy outbreaks of rain to western Scotland through the evening and Northern Ireland. However, the rain does turn lighter and more patchy through the night, and by the end of the night, even in the north, it will be mostly dry, albeit cloudier and milder compared with how we started things on Friday. The clearest skies will be further south, and again, temperatures approaching 0. So a bit of a chill in the air for southern counties of England, parts of South Wales, into the Midlands and East Anglia. I think in main towns and cities, temperatures at 8 or 9 Celsius. In sheltered rural spots, more like the low single figures. However, for Northern Ireland, Northern England, parts of Scotland, a very different story first thing Saturday, 10 to 13 Celsius, with an awful lot of cloud out there and some outbreaks of persistent rain and drizzle over the hills of western Scotland. Otherwise, actually eastern Scotland seeing good shelter from that and some brightness coming through, and it's going to feel milder with the winds picking up from the southwest. Meanwhile, for much of England and Wales, a bright, albeit relatively cloudy afternoon to come. The best of the sunshine will be in the south, and with lighter winds, 18 or 19 Celsius, feeling perfectly pleasant. Now, the rain that will increasingly arrive in the northwest on Saturday night will spread south by Sunday so that it's across Cumbria, North and West Wales during the day. Still some sunshine to be had in the south and southeast, and some brighter skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland, albeit with a few blustery showers around. Monday starts off drier for many of us and then increasingly sunny and increasingly warm through next week.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, it's time for Right versus Left, and joining me on the panel today, I've got the lovely, the beautiful, the gorgeous Matthew Stadlen, Lizzie Cundy, and my old colleague Dame Andrea Jenkyns. Thanks for coming. So it's going to be a bit of a political punch-up, actually, I think, this. Yeah. So the question is...
left versus wrong, as you know.
Left versus wrong, OK. It's there again, isn't it? Ruining my viewing figures. Today's topic, Andrea, is this the worst ever start for a British Prime Minister? Over to you.
I think clearly it is. I mean, what has it been, 8 weeks now or something? My parliamentary email address is still openly until November. Yeah. I've been inundated with constituents, the elderly, saying, Andrea, please help. So much so that I got a petition going in the area to save the winter fuel allowance. And I didn't want to step on his toes. I thought, new MP, but gosh, I've had hundreds, Lee. Yeah. And I think it's a terrible start. I've been having people even emailing who voted for Labour saying, I regret voting for Labour.
Buyer's remorse?
Yes, completely buyer's remorse.
Let's go to Matthew.
Well, first of all, as I've already said, I'm not in favour of what Labour have decided to do on the winter fuel allowance, although clearly it was absurd that a lot of very wealthy pensioners have been getting this £300. I mean, I don't know whether you've been over the years of Tory government getting letters from young mothers who can't afford to heat their homes. It's not just the elderly who suffer. But on this question as to whether it's the worst start ever, certainly not. I mean, Starmer has levelled with the people. He said that there are tough decisions to make, and there certainly are, because your lot left the NHS and social care and prisons
but look at the pay
in a
rise,
terrible...
The public sector.
You keep saying that, but
look
you guys...
You
keep saying that, but you allowed those strikes to grind on and on and
He
on.
was politically motivated strikes to bring down a Conservative government.
At the expense, Andrea, of a functioning train system and at the expense of the economy. If the economy grows, there's more money for pensioners.
I would have given him a penny.
You're seriously telling me, Andrea, you're seriously telling me with a straight face that this is the worst start for a British Prime Minister?
Yes.
When you were involved in the Tory party at the time of Liz Truss's catastrophic administration, I find that insulting.
Come on, Lizzie. Come on, Lizzie.
Keir Starmer is the worst, he is dreadful in every way. Not just what he's doing to the pensioners, but the early release of prisoners. Matthew, I work for an ambassador of Women's Aid, and Labour, another lie they told us, said that domestic abusers would not be released early. Another lie. Well, they are. And I had a call yesterday from a girl who's a victim, so scared her ex-partner may be released. I'll be knocking on her door. They're living in fear. The wrong people are being released and the wrong people are going in. What he's doing to this country already, in the small time he's had here, in charge, is being absolutely shocking. And what he's done to the pensioners...
The Conservatives left our prisons. The Conservatives left our prisons in the most scandalous condition. It is the most important function of a government to keep us, the people, safe. You left our prisons brimful, and that is a shameful record.
Okay. Have you got selective amnesia? Look at 2010 when there was a coalition. Look what state the Labour government, the last Labour government, previous one, left the country in. Even Liam Byrne left that note saying there's no money left. So how dare you say about the Conservative government?
Tony Blair,
we had to sort the economy out. What you left in a dire state.
You failed to invest.
Did COVID happen?
We've just had a report. We have just had a report this very morning that says the dire failings of the NHS are partly down to the austerity of those early years of George Osborne and David Cameron. Your party should be ashamed, and guess what? You've been punished very, very resoundingly.
It's not the Matthew Stadler show. Let the ladies have a go.
I'm on my own against you three.
Matthew, you think it's right to release these criminals early, some that are abusers, have done horrific things, being released? Did you not see outside Wandsworth them celebrating with, champagne and going into Lamborghinis?
One got... Where do you want to put them? In hotels?
I'll tell you where I put them, Matthew.
That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
Because they've been in power for 40 years and they let the prisons deteriorate to such an extent.
I'll tell you where I put them,
There isn't space for prisoners.
I'll tell you where I put them.
So you let
I'll tell you where I put them.
They're a danger to the public.
I put them in the field picking crops. It's the time for the chain gangs to come back and punish these prisoners. Chain gangs, yes. Yeah, chain gangs. Let's have it back. Let's have them working their debt off the side. Other than that, Matthew, how about they move next door to you?
Listen, or you, Lee. I don't want these people. Do you think you're seriously suggesting I want prisoners to be let out early? The point is, it is the shameful and disgraceful legacy of a Conservative government that failed to keep us safe. But on your point on chain gangs, actually is quite interesting. I'm not in favour of chain gangs, but there is a serious and important argument to be had about sentencing and as to whether we would be better off as a society with less reoffending if people cleaned up their own communities.
I want to go to your point about the NHS again. It was your Labour trade union paymasters who caused all these strikes, which extended the waiting times for people. It was COVID. And if you're that great, look at NHS in Wales. It's even longer waiting times.
Let me come back to that. My wife gave birth, and giving birth for a woman is the biggest moment of her life. And
I'm glad you acknowledge what a woman is.
Don't start with that nonsense, that offensive nonsense. I'll tell you about my wife giving birth. She gave birth in a hospital whose walls were literally crumbling. And that is because the Conservative government, for year after year after year, failed to invest in our buildings, in our hospitals,
how are you
in technology.
How are you going to invest when you've just spent all these...
They were crumbling. Tony Blair didn't invest.
Waiting lists fell significantly under New Labour.
Let Lizzie come back on that.
But Tony Blair didn't invest. He knew that no, he didn't. He knew prisons were crumbling, schools were crumbling. He did nothing.
Record levels of investment under the New Labour government. All you're doing, Lizzie, is picking up any mud you can throw. You're now bringing in Iraq as if I supported the Iraq war. The new Labour government invested heavily. Interest rates under Andrea's Tories were extraordinarily low. What an opportunity to invest in our country so that we could have a platform for growth. As a result of your legacy, our country is almost broken.
I'm going to be totally impartial here, guys. I've heard enough of your nonsense, Matthew. We're going to go straight to the yes.
That doesn't sound very impartial, Lee.
Yes or no quiz. You know the rules. You have to answer yes or no. There can be no stammers, no stuttering. It's got to be a yes or no. And question number one for Lizzie. Is the Labour Party delivering the change people voted for?
No.
Matthew?
Yes.
Andrea?
No.
Ooh. Andrea, is there two-tier policing in the UK?
Yes.
Matthew?
No.
100% yes.
I can't give you that, Liz.
Yes.
I can't. You said
Yes.
simple. It's simple. We've got a female version of Stephen Pound here. Sorry, I can't give you that.
Yes.
Number 3, back to you, Matthew. Should the Labour Party reverse the decision on the winter fuel allowance?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. To you, Andrea. In 2017, the Labour Party said that nearly 4,000 pensioners would die if the winter fuel allowance was removed. Were they telling the truth?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
You're clawing back. Matthew, are immigrants in the United States eating cats and dogs?
No.
Andrew?
No.
Yes.
Oh, controversial one there. So we have Matthew, joint winner with Andrea. Sorry about that, Liz. It is yes, no.
I know, but I got a bit over.
Yeah, you got excited,
sorry,
didn't you? You got excited.
about that.
So, Matthew, do you want to come back on one? You've got about 30 seconds each to come back on
But should
one.
we not have a playoff, a decider, an eliminator, a penalty shootout? You were very close to saying more than one word, but I'm respectful of the fact that you...
Is that what you really want to do?
Would you like me to come back on
Wrong
something?
answer. So, yes or no? Is that what you really want to do?
No.
Andrea wins. Well done, Andrea. You've been suckered in.
Well done.
Difficult
well
socialism.
Well done. Well done. Go power.
So, look.
That's my first ever defeat.
Well. You know the rules, Matthew.
Lars.
So,
It's because you hate Tories that much that you lost your train of thought, isn't it?
You lost your way,
Sorry,
darling.
I'm literally married to a Tory. I'm not someone who lives in an echo chamber.
he has been. Yeah, I think you've been hoodwinked there. You really have.
She
So,
must be a soft
the interesting
Tory,
one, Andrea, you raised your eyebrows when I asked about all immigrants in the US eating cats and dogs. This was a comment that Trump made yesterday.
Oh, was it? I didn't see that.
Andrea very nearly lost at that point because
You did, yeah.
you were debating it in your mind.
That's because I didn't hear it about that. Yeah.
In Springfield, was it?
It's in Springfield, yeah. And in the debate with Harris, he said this, and people thinking this was ramblings of a madman. But today on the news, they were like, actually, he's correct. Yes, so I did get that right.
Today on the news,
Yeah, no, they actually had evidence that is true, and that people going to that. And he's actually
immigrant baiting, immigrant bashing nonsense from Trump, which is what we've come to expect. Which is why I hope very, very much that he loses the election.
Well, some people in some countries, Matthew, do eat cats and dogs.
I condemn it utterly.
And he put a law. Trump put a law in that you cannot. He actually put a law in
You
that
can't
you
pin
can't.
dog eating on me, Lee. I mean, that is one thing that is a step too far.
But I was disappointed in his debate. I thought he could have been a bit more.
He was awful.
Feisty.
And she was good, Kamala Harris.
Well,
I mean,
he
I
should
think
have just
you
let
would
her
have been
talk.
impressed by her performance.
He
Lee.
got niggled, which he shouldn't have done. He was getting niggled.
I think he's a bit long in the tooth now, isn't he, Donald?
So want him to beat Kamala, then?
Well,
Yeah.
I think any sensible person
We're talking
does.
about domestic abuse, and this is a man who's been found by a jury in a civil court to be a sexual abuser, and yet you want him to beat Kamala Harris, who fought to put these people behind bars. Incredible.
But she's useless, isn't she?
Well, look,
Kamala
listen,
Harris doesn't know.
That's the end
There it
of
is.
the yes/no quiz. End of this section. Andre, I'm so proud of you. You've actually beat him.
Yes.
You beat Matthew Stadler.
Not
First
on the
time.
substance.
Well,
Oh, you're so arrogant.
He's very
Oh my
arrogant.
God.
but look, coming up next, we've got Last Orders with Robert Walton.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and is inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.
Joining us now to discuss what it takes to embark on a second career as cabin crew is Helen Williams. Good morning, Helen.
Hi, good morning,
Helen.
Welcome. Just touching down in our studio.
It is. I've had a few days off and now I'm here.
So you are now cabin crew.
I am.
What inspired you to get into it? What did you do before? How did it all come around?
Oh, so when I graduated, I took an office job with my grad scheme, and that job lasted 6 months, and I started working for a European carrier. I did just over 5 years at that European carrier and had an absolutely fabulous time. I then went on to a wet lease operation with an Irish carrier and another mainline UK carrier. I then decided to have time out. I had a business, I had a family, I had children, and last autumn I decided, why not? Let's go back and do it all again. So returning to that European carrier that I'd worked at when I was in my early 20s.
And what is that like for you now, returning that bit older, having that life experience, having your children? Do you think that's been a benefit to you?
It's absolutely been a benefit. I mean, the amount of parents that thank me for helping me with their small children when they're crying on a flight. I am that person now.
When you went back for a second time, did you notice more sort of older people amongst your sort of colleagues?
I did. So when I returned onto my initial course in March of this year, just over half the course were over the age of 30.
Wow.
Which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was expecting to return and be with a lot of younger, 18, 19, 24. I was expecting to be that dinosaur. And that first day of training, to find out that I wasn't the dinosaur, you have no idea how exciting that was. And they've gone on, that particular group, to be phenomenal crew members.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
That's Last Orders at the Bar, and I'm joined by the godfather of hospitality, that's a mouthful, Robert Walton. Now, you're a godfather. What does that mean?
I've been around a long time.
A long time.
In hospitality.
Yeah.
I think that's more about what it's all about.
Yeah. So, you've run pubs as well in the past.
I have.
And I think back in the day when the first smoking ban was introduced inside pubs, that...
Right.
You was involved in a pub at that time?
I had a pub. So I've started my first restaurant when I was 24 years old.
Okay.
And then I went through the process. And when the first smoking ban came in, I had a pub.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting time because I was involved with the Restaurant Association, which is now very much UKH.
Yeah.
And so how was that going to work? You know, how did we see that working? And I mean, I think most of us, you know, most people that ran the pubs thought that it was a good idea to not have smoking inside at the time.
Yeah.
There was a smoking area in pubs. You remember that? You know, it was like a smoking area at the back of a plane. It was ridiculous, really.
It was with a little curtain.
You know, you have this area where you could smoke and somebody could sit here. And so it was. I think most of us agreed that it was a good idea to stop smoking inside.
So what sort of impact did that have on your business?
Well, I think it was. I think there were lots of opinions of the of what it was going to do to businesses. I don't actually think. I think people could eat in clean air,
that's good.
which was really important. And I think very soon we realised that actually it was a good idea.
Yeah. And I think pubs were going to close anyway, weren't they? And I think sometimes they're a little bit lazy to blame it on smoking. But I think this latest measure, which looks like the Labour government's going to bring in, actually, because people go outside for a crafty fag, they have little shelters built outside smoking area. I think that's acceptable. I think, you know, we're treating smokers like lepers at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a smoker. And I don't know many people that are smokers in my group.
They don't smoke.
But I honestly can't see the issue of if you smoke outside. I mean, where does it stop, really? If you can't smoke in your pub garden, which you've created areas for, certainly through COVID, where we created these gorgeous areas for outside. If you can't smoke outside in your garden, Do you go like literally out the gate and you can smoke out, and you're back to that same scenario?
I mean, I don't want to be breathing people smoking, and I speak as an ex-smoker, but I haven't got no problem with somebody going outside for a smoke for 2 minutes and have the fix of nicotine. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
I think we should be a little bit more liberal on that subject and let people do what they want. I mean, like you say, Robert, there's not many people smoke these days, is there?
No, well, I mean, funny enough, we just had a wedding recently. I had a lot of smoking. I couldn't really. But I personally, as a non-smoker, I have no issue with somebody smoking outside. And most people that smoke are very conscious of people around them.
I think so.
So even if they're in the garden, they're going to go and wander over to the corner somewhere. They're not going to smoke.
Unless somebody's got one of those ridiculous vapes. Right. They take one puff, and it's like the fog's just emitted everywhere, and you can't see anything. I mean, I've got more of an issue with these vapes than cigarettes. But let's talk about COVID, because when I first got elected in 2019, just a few months after, we had COVID hit us, and we shut the country down, and that affected the hospitality industry massively. I know they got a lot of support from the government at the time, and actually I know some pubs that were better off getting that monthly wedge each month. Actually, it was more money was making over the counter, but that changed a lot of our habits, the way we live, the way we act, the way we socialise, and I know you made some changes as well, didn't you?
I think it was an incredible time. I mean, it was not a time that we all wanted. It was a time that was a massive disruptor to our lives, but we all had time to do things. And I remember being where we lived at the time, which was just outside Pangbourne in Berkshire, and we couldn't get a delivery of anything because all of your online deliveries were just over 3 weeks. So you either didn't eat for 3 weeks, or you went out and bought some vegetables or some meat or some dairy produce or whatever it was from a local farm shop, because you could go out. You were allowed to go out and buy food.
You were.
And so suddenly, and I'm a chef. And I decided to do some online videos, and I realised how lovely onions were and carrots were, and I didn't want a straight carrot. I wanted a carrot covered in mud and dirt that was from the fresh pick from the garden. And you suddenly realise, gosh, that things really do taste so much better. I realised that ridiculously after all the years I've been involved, and so I think it made us really think about food. It made us think about produce. And you'll see today the number one word in any restaurant is sustainability, local, all this sort of stuff. I've got a hotel in Devon. We try and buy food within 25 miles of everywhere. Now, I run a massive global competition called Young Chef, Young Waiter and Young Mixologist. I've just come back from Wales. And in Wales, the whole competition is geared around local produce.
That's excellent.
So everything's local. So the thing that happened in COVID, in my opinion, was our resetting of our minds and what we like. And certainly at home.
So some positives came out of COVID.
I think some positives did.
Hospitality.
Hospitality.
We're behind a bar.
Yes, we are.
I know you're no stranger to.
I feel very
We've got
home.
pint pots underneath there, Robert.
I feel very home.
We have the pumps here.
I've got Guinness there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually. It's a good point.
Right. Okay.
Can you pull a pint in 30 seconds? This is a challenge. You can pick any pint pot you want. I think probably the Foster's is the easiest one to pull.
Foster's the easiest.
That's that one there.
Yep.
So 30 seconds.
The one that says Foster's?
It's a bit of a giveaway. Yeah.
So you want me to go straight in and put
Go for it.
Okay.
So while we're doing that, we've seen a pint of Guinness on the bar.
Yes.
That's your tipple these days. Is there a
Well,
reason
it
for
is.
that?
It is. There's a reason for that. I had tongue cancer when in 2017, and that cancer is actually really. It was an HPV cancer, and which is human papillomavirus.
Yeah.
This is a bit frothy.
Well, stick it on the bar, young man.
Okay.
That virus is something that lives in your body all the time, isn't it? You can stick it on the bar, Robert. Let's have a look. It's not bad, actually. I think I can give you a 10 out of 10 for that.
Oh, well, there we are.
Yeah.
I'm quite like a 10 out of 10. Actually, it's not bad at all.
Good point. Yeah,
I have pulled thousands of them, so I should have.
Yeah, you will get away with that. So, the Guinness.
Anyway, so Guinness, So I had tongue cancer, exactly the same cancer as people.
How did you know you got it?
So you don't know. You just know something's not right. I had an annoying swallowing feeling.
Got you.
Not like a sore throat from a cold. So you just know something's not right.
Yeah.
And it's the same. That cancer is the Rod Gilbert cancer, is a Stanley Tucci cancer, it's a Michael Douglas. It's the same cancer. I'm just saying because that's that viral cancer. And basically, you go through the treatment, and if you'd have seen the Rod Gilbert program or something, it's a radical treatment.
Yeah.
It's 30 bouts of radiation, 6 bouts of chemotherapy. You then lose all your taste buds. Everything goes. You can't eat. I didn't eat for 3 months. So, and I won't go into all that, but so your taste buds come back. And then I realised, actually it wasn't a bad pint, was it?
It's a good pint.
When I realised that when I started eating and drinking, because I used to love red wine, I can't drink red wine now.
Wow.
So it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm here. So that's the thing.
Nice.
And then somebody up there loved me, and I tried. Oh, very first of all, I tried. Try Guinness first, because Guinness was smooth and creamy and lovely. So I drink Guinness with anything, the creme brulee, sticky toffee pudding, prawn cocktail, anything you like.
Have you ever tried half a pint of Guinness with cider in?
Oh, I've done black velvet, Guinness and champagne.
Yeah. Well, cider's a cheaper version.
Okay.
It's much sweeter. It's nice.
I mean, I'd imagine. And then the other drink I drink is champagne. So it's really bizarre.
Yeah.
And they're the only two drinks I drink now.
So you've got expensive taste now?
Well, only if I'm in a restaurant, but not if I'm... Well, unless Guinness is quite expensive, isn't it?
Well, that's been an absolute... That's flown by. Time's up now, Robert.
Oh, we're done, are we?
That is Robert Walton, MBE. He's the, hospitality guru. I think I'm going to call you that now.
OK, anything hospitality is great.
It is. So it's been a great... thanks for joining me, mate.
Thank you. Lovely.
A great story. And
I'm glad...
I'm have a sip of this Guinness.
You have a sip of that. Nice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching Lee Anderson's Real World. Another great show, great guests, more of the same next week. But coming up next, we've got Friday Night Live with the fantastic Mark Dolan.
Thank you, Lee. What a brilliant show. We pick up the baton at 8 o'clock with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. Are Labour right to consider banning Nigel Farage from hosting a show on GB News? Also, has Donald Trump already lost the presidential election after that rather shaky performance on Tuesday night? And what about the NHS? Is it time to shut down our National Health Service and start again? After all, it's a service which is costing more than it ever has done, but delivering a worse than ever service. Also tonight, is David Lammy going to take us into World War III? A huge diplomatic dispute with Moscow. It's got to be a worry, hasn't it? But let me tell you that Vladimir Putin has his sights on our Foreign Secretary. Is David Lammy becoming an absolute national catastrophe? Also, with the last ever Grand Tour airing this weekend, is Jeremy Clarkson our greatest Briton? That much more.